Today's lesson is 4.5, completing the square. All right, I've got my equation here of x squared plus bx plus, now this is where you would normally see our c term, but what we're going to do today is show you how to complete the square. So I'm going to make this into a perfect square trinomial so that the factors of c are the same number. That's what makes it a perfect square. And so to do that, I am going to take and square a fraction. And this fraction is going to be whatever the b term is divided by 2. So I'm going to take this very b term right here. Let me go ahead and put that in pink for you. And I'm going to divide it by 2, and then I'm going to square it to get my c term. This is going to create my perfect square trinomial so that when I do the factors of c, I will get the same number and that will add to the factors of b. So I have like 2 times 2, which becomes 4. That would be my perfect square. Let's go ahead and practice just creating that c term, just creating the c term. So in my first example, they want me to find the values of c such that the expression is a perfect square trinomial. So I'm going to go ahead and identify my b term. Here is my b term. And I'm going to go ahead and all I need to do is this part here, the fraction, and square it. That's all they're asking me to do. So I know that there's a 2 on the bottom, and I'm going to take my b and I'm going to go ahead and divide it. I'm going to actually go ahead and do this division because that's what they want me to do. 9 squared is 81. So 81 would be our answer. This would be our answer to make our perfect square trinomial. And just so that you know, 9 times 9 is my factor of 81, and 9 plus 9 is what gives me my 18. So 9 times 9 gives me 81. 9 plus 9 gives me 18. That's my perfect square trinomial. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at this one. X squared minus 10x plus c. So here is my b term. Here is my b term. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I know that it is a negative. And so I'm going to say negative 10 divided by 2. And I'm going to take that whole fraction and I'm going to square it. Well, negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5 squared, and negative 5 times negative 5 is positive 25. Now, if I were to factor this, my factors would be negative 5 because just like I said, negative 5 times negative 5 gives me 25, and negative 5 plus negative 5 gives me my negative 10. There's my perfect square trinomial. All right, let's go ahead and solve each of my equations by completing the square. And it does say that if we need to, if it is necessary, we're going to go ahead and round to the nearest hundredth. Round to the nearest hundredth if necessary. Just a quick reminder, hundredth makes me think of the number 100. And when I think of the number 100, remember your decimal goes right after the 1. And that's telling you that you have whatever is in front of the decimal and then 1, 2 numbers after, and that's it. So this number right here is the one that I'm going to decide to round. And the number that's right here in this place, in this third spot, is going to be the one that decides if I round or not. Remember, the rounding rules are 4 or more, 4 or less, let it rest. 5 or more, add 1 more. Excuse me. All right. So to be able to solve, we need to be very careful. Remember, this is what this side should look like. And this right here is not C. I'm not going to move this over. I'm not going to try to factor. Um, and I'm just doing that because they are asking me to solve by completing the square. So I know it's probably not factorable. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create room on both sides for me to add oops, that fraction. And if I remember from when we learned how to solve equations, if I add the same thing to both sides, I'm not changing my equation. So there we go. I've added what I can of the fraction so far. I do have to come back and say, what's my b term? Well, here's my b term right here. So the 10's going on top, the 10's going on top. And then I'm going to do a little bit of math in my head. Well, 10 divided by 2 is 5. So I have 5 squared. And of course, on the other side, I'm going to go a little bit further and say, well, 5 squared is 25. So notice what I did on this side, I did the dividing, and on this side, I did the multiplication. Both of these fractions are exactly the same. So I'm just helping to save myself some time. So once again, this fraction, I just went ahead and did the dividing. And then from that same fraction, I went ahead and did the multiplication to get to the 25. Why did I do that? Well, I did that because if I leave this in this term, I can factor faster. Um, to get my two factors, because this is a perfect square, ax and x, and this number right here, which is the division of this, always the division, is what's going to go in with my x. Since it is a positive 5, I'm going to put a plus 5 with both of them. If it were negative, I would put a negative 5. All right, negative 16 plus 25 is positive 9. All right, these two are exactly the same. So guess what? I didn't even have to write them twice. I only had to write them once and put a square with it. That's what a perfect square trinomial is. Now what this allows me to do is to use my square roots to solve. So the square root of x plus 5 squared is x plus 5. And of course, the square root of 9 is positive and negative 3. To finish solving, all I have to do is subtract 5 to the other side, which gives me these two answers. Let me see, I think I can squeeze them in right here. Negative 5 plus or minus 3. I'm going to go ahead and split this into my two answers, which is negative 5 plus 3 or negative 2. There's my first answer. And then my second answer would be negative 5 minus 3, which is negative 8. Let's try another one. It'll get easier and easier as we go. So some quick things to look at before we move on to the next one. Remember, for this side, you just want to do the division. You just want to do the division because that's going to get you to your factors faster. On this side, you want to go ahead and do the division and then the squaring. So here's your division, and you can square over on the other side. It's going to get you done faster. All right, let's take another look at this one. I'm going to go ahead and move this to the other side. No, I'm sorry. No, I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm going to go ahead and make room for my completing the square. Let me make room for my completing the square by adding my fraction to both sides. I'm going to go ahead and put the 2 on the bottom because that's part of completing the square. And I'm going to come back here and say b is negative 4. Yes, I need the negative. If I don't have the negative, I'm going to end up with it incorrect. All right, so x squared minus 4x. Remember, here you are doing just the division. So negative 2. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. And now on this side, I'm going to say negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. Okay, so once again, on this side, I'm only doing the division, and on this side, I'm doing the division and the squaring, but I just went ahead and did it from here. All right, so remember, this side is now factorable. This side is now factorable. It is a perfect square, so we could go straight to it is x, and then it's this number that's right inside here. It's my b divided by 2, -2, and I keep the square outside. 1 plus 4 is 5. I did it even faster this time because it's a pattern. Every single time, if I leave this as a division, then this number goes in here with my x in the front of it, my x in the front, and I keep the square. I just kind of widen out my parentheses for it. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and square root both sides, giving me x minus 2. The square root of 5, I don't know what the square root of 5 is. In fact, it's going to give me some decimal, but before I go to the decimal, I need to add 2 to both sides. Now, I'm not sure how Alex is going to ask you, but you could have 2 plus the square root of 5 or 2 minus the square root of 5. But since this one specifically asked me for my decimals, I'm going to go ahead and split them and say 2 plus the square root of 5, and that's going to give me about 4.24 when I round. And this one, 2 minus the square root of 5, this one is going to give me about negative 0.24 when I divide. All right, I have two last examples. And of course, the very, very last one is going to be your exit ticket. So you're going to go ahead and finish that one for me. Okay, so notice the difference in this one. In this one, we are equal to 0. So the first thing I need to do here is take this minus 17 and move it to the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and add 17 because otherwise I cannot complete the square. I'm going to go ahead and leave space for my completing the square fraction. And 0 plus 17 is 17, and I'm going to leave space for my fraction on the other side as well. I'm going to come in here with my 2's, and now I'm going to go back and I'm going to figure out what b is. Well, here is my b, negative 16, so I'm going to put that. And now I'm going to go ahead and actually divide. So x squared minus 16x plus negative 16 divided by 2 is negative 8 squared. And negative 8 times negative 8 is positive 64. When I factor on this side, remember I get x and the number. I just kind of pull out my parentheses to make it a little bit bigger. And 17 plus 64. Oh no, my calculator. Oh no, my kids have been playing with it. I don't know what to do. Okay, there we go. Plus 64, 81. You're going to take the square root of both sides, leaving you x minus 8, and the square root of 81 is plus or minus 9. I'm going to add 8 to both sides, and I get 8 plus or minus 9. I'm going to go ahead and split them. 8 plus 9 is 17. There's one answer. 8 minus 9 is negative 1. There's my other answer. Now remember, these are my roots, these are my solutions, these are my x-intercepts. All right, last one, and as you can see, this is your exit ticket. So I'm going to go ahead and erase that, but this is your exit ticket. I'm going to help you out just a bit. And then I'm going to leave it for you guys to solve. All right, so remember that it is equal to 0. And so the first thing I want to do is take this and move it to the other side. And I do that by adding, because I don't want the C term with the A and the B term. I'm going to go ahead and make space for my completing the square fraction on both sides. 0 plus 2 is 2. And I'm going to put my 2 on the bottom. I'm going to go back and find out what my b term is. It's positive 6. There we go. All right, so on this side, I have x squared plus 6x plus 3 squared. 6 divided by 2 is 3. And on this side, I'm going to go ahead and do my 3 times 3, which is 9. All right, on the first side, I am already factored. I'm just going to squeeze in my x plus 3 inside my parenthesis, and 11, or 2 plus 9 is 11. All right, you're going to go ahead and take the square root of both sides, and you're going to go ahead and finish the problem. Good luck.